welcome to Blue Water Outlook. I'm on the banks of the Potomac River today. Many of the leaves have already turned here, and evapotranspiration rates will be decreasing very significantly over the next couple weeks. We've had a couple hot spots over the last week for heavy rainfall. I'll be discussing those in just a bit, but it looks like a fairly quiet week this week and next week as well. Stay tuned to the weekly Water Outlook. Let's start off today's briefing by looking at rainfall across the nation. What we see here, the areas of blue are only up to about a ½ inch of rain, so pretty much that's a very light rain over a period of time. Just the areas in green and particularly the areas in yellow received any significant rainfall, and look how small in coverage those areas have been. We see areas with no rain whatsoever up in the western U.S., over a large part of Texas, and over the south and southeast U.S., and the gray area in the northeast U.S., that's missing data. The percent of normal rainfall, we've seen this trend for 2, 3, 4 weeks in a row, where the vast majority of the nation has received well below normal rainfall. Now this is a quiet time of the year, and even for a quiet time of the year, we're getting below normal rainfall. If we look at the rain gauge data, the number of rain days in the last 7 days, and this went through October 12th, we see very large areas of the nation in that darker shade of brown receive 0 rain over a 7-day period. We see a large percent of the country only received a day or two of rain over the last 7 days. So certainly the story from a large-scale perspective is very dry and quiet weather pattern over the nation. Now the drought monitor has not changed a whole lot. We still see that core of drought, very persistent, extensive area of drought right smack in the center part of the U.S. Over the southeast U.S., another area of drought, but the area of Missouri, Illinois, Indiana, and to some lesser degree over the southeast U.S., that has gradually been eroding away as there's been some rainfall in those areas. It's still there. It's been very persistent, but at least there's been some modest improvement in those regions over the last 2 weeks or so. Now there is a tropical system out in the Atlantic to take a look at, Tropical Storm Raphael. It's not going to pose any impact onto the United States as it moves once again. Those steering flows have been extremely persistent after the first couple systems for the rest of the season. That's going to be moving up towards the northwest, north, and then northeast. No impact from a hydrologic perspective over the nation. River conditions right now from our colleagues at the USGS, what we see are large parts of the country right now are experiencing normal stream flow. Areas in red and the maroon and the orange shades, that's below normal stream flow. And we do see an area of above normal stream flow from Mississippi, parts of Alabama, into the Tennessee and Ohio River valleys, as well as the northeast U.S. Now you might say, how much rain would it take to get rid of that big area of drought in the central part of the U.S.? Unfortunately, it still looks like it would take a lot of rain, 12 to 15 inches of rain over the central part of the U.S., over Iowa. And they did receive a little bit of rain over the last week that would help that, and that will continue into this week. So that probably maybe a couple inches off that 12, so that's probably going to come down to 8 to 10 inches of rain or so by this next week. So a little bit of improvement over parts of that area. But still, if we look at most of the country right now, we could use about 3 to 6 inches of rain over a very broad part of the central part of the U.S. to get rid of this drought. Okay, now if we look at the big picture, we're going to have pretty big changes in the jet stream this week. Now the last 2 or 3 weeks we have not. We've been a pretty stagnant type pattern. This week, what we see here is that yellow line is going to be the early and mid-week type alignment, and we're going to have a very strong semi-cutoff low over the Ohio Valley, and by the end of the week, very late in the week, that's going to pull off to the east, and the jet stream is going to be sort of a sloppy west to east type flow. Now you would think that that might bring some significant precipitation, and there will be a few spots. But for the most part, I don't expect a whole lot of widespread significant rain events throughout the week, despite the jet stream being fairly amplified with that area of low pressure. So some of the trends that I'm forecasting this week, first of all, the drought should persist. Now, the areas of more significant rainfall are going to be a small area at the Pacific Northwest, 2 to 3 inches of rain, and that's a very small area. And then another area with that upper jet stream, parts of Iowa into Wisconsin and Michigan. And that red dashed line in there is an area where there could be some modest drought relief, and that's where I mentioned before. So that'll probably carve out a little bit of that drought. It won't take it away, because remember, it takes 12 inches or so, but it will help a little bit to get 2 or 3 inches in that area. Unfortunately, over a large part of the southwest U.S., it looks like very little, if any, precipitation this week, and light rainfall over the parts of the southeast U.S. as well. Elsewhere, maybe a little bit of activity, showers and thunderstorms, but it looks scattered and fairly light. So from a soil moisture perspective this week, large parts of the area, the nation, should see decreasing soil moisture. Now keep in mind, temperatures are much cooler now that we're getting well into fall, so it's going to be more of a modest change over a week than we saw in the middle of summer, but still decreasing soil moisture, and those are the shades of brown. And the only areas of increasing soil moisture would be the Pacific Northwest, and then that area of precipitation over parts of the Ohio Valley, or the Great Lakes region. Now, I do like to occasionally put out a sort of a pure model output, and I did put this here over the next 7 days, a model output of rainfall, because I wanted to show where the model is showing no rainfall whatsoever falling over this period. And anywhere in here, from California into Texas, up into Kansas, parts of Nebraska or so, the models are showing no rain whatsoever over the next 7 days. This area in green here over the southeast U.S. and parts of Florida, north and central Florida, that light green is light amounts of rain. And the only areas where it looks like there will be a significant water resource impacting type rainfall would be over the Pacific Northwest, and that's in the order of 2 to 4 inches of rain, and then parts of the Great Lakes region into the northeast U.S. And that's pretty much it for this week. And if you look at the aerial coverage of that, it's really not a whole lot. Most of the area is expecting light amount of rain. So the takeaway points for this week's Weekly Water Outlook: despite an active jet stream that's going to go from this upper cutoff type low into a west or east flow, there will be some broad areas of light or no precipitation across the nation. There'll be no significant rainfall over the southwest U.S. and parts of Texas and the western U.S. There could be some improvement over Iowa, Wisconsin, as far as the Pacific Northwest should be pretty active. The tropical activity will be coming closer, but we do not expect any over the United States. There will be no large-scale hydrologic impacts. If there are any areas of flooding, they should be very small scale. There'll be one frontal passage this week going across much of the nation, and there could be some isolated small-scale flooding with that. Overall, I think once again, it looks like a quiet week. I will be filling in information throughout the week and through my blog, and I hope you will be reading that. Otherwise, thank you for listening to this week's edition of the Weekly Water Outlook.